This is a tutorial on how to wax your snowboard. You're going to need a iron, preferably one with no holes in the bottom so the wax doesn't get stuck in there and keep dripping out. You need your wax and scraper, a brush, and a Fibertex pad. The first thing I do is melt the wax onto the sides of the boards by the rails first, because that's where most of the wear and tear is going to be. I run a bead on either side, and then I fill it in with drops of wax, probably about 3 or 4 inches apart. The ends I don't worry about too much, just a couple of drops there because they don't come in contact with the snow. And then once you have your wax on, you're gonna spread it out with your iron. I usually, again, I go over the edges of the board first, towards the sides, and get them melted in. So, and try to spread it out evenly. You don't want to keep your iron in one spot too long because you could damage your board if it gets too hot. So keep it moving, but at the same time you want it melted all the way through, and you want to spread it out nice and evenly so there's no dry spots anywhere. And then you can start doing the middle of your board, and again, just use sort of slow, easy passes back and forth, and just fill in all those dry areas. You can go over the tip and tail really quick. Those sections do get dried out, so a little bit of wax won't hurt there. And then, so then you're going to let the wax sit for about 30 to 45 minutes. During that time, it'll start absorbing into your base and cooling down and hardening on top. After the 30 to 45 minutes, you're going to get your scraper and you're going to start scraping the wax off, long strokes. You're really going to have to put your weight into it to get it right down. You're going to be going from the nose end of your board towards the tail, and you're going to keep scraping away until there's no more wax to be scraped off. It normally that's why when you do put your wax on, you want to be aware of how much you're putting on, because you're going to have to take that off later on. And depending on how much you put down is going to determine how long you'll be scraping your board for. If you leave any wax on your board and you don't get it all off, then it's going to affect the way you ride, and you'll notice it. So after you're finished scraping, you're going to grab your brush, and in the same fashion, long passes from the nose of your board down to the tail. You will be brushing with a good amount of force behind it, and this is going to structure the wax so that it conforms to the length of your board. If you come across any areas where there's some wax that you missed scraping, you can just go over that with your scraper. It's a lot more efficient than trying to get it off with your brush or the pad. So for the last step, you're going to get your Fibertex pad, and I usually cut them in half so you get 2 pads out of each sheet. And I have a wooden block that I use to help me get even pressure on the board with the pad. It's a lot easier than using your hand, and you can really lay into it. And what you're doing is basically in the same fashion as with the scraper and the brush. You go in from nose to tail, and you're just putting as much pressure as you can and getting all that residue wax that's still on there off. You can see on the bottom of the pad where the wax is building up, so you can just move the block to an area of the pad where it's there's not a whole lot of wax on there, because that's not going to be doing you much good. And these pads are reusable. You can get a brush or whatever and kind of brush off the wax that's on there and use them again for a number of times. And so this is really going to the last step is going to clean your board up. It's going to make the base look really nice. You can go over the tip and tail a little bit. You don't have to spend a whole lot of time, but just to kind of get it all uniform. And when you're and then that's about it. After this step, you're done with the waxing. And so for the next tutorial we'll be on how to tune your edges and clean up your edges and sharpen them.